Got a little breaking news here on a Thursday on Chicago Bears Now. My name is Harrison Graham. Ryan Poles and the Bears have signed 2 more players as we are just 3 weeks away from the NFL draft. We'll tell you who those players are one by one here in just a moment. But this is why you subscribe. Big news, small news, signings, we're going to cover it here on Bears Now because we don't skimp out. We want to keep you guys up to date on everything surrounding this football team with the latest updates on the roster and everything else in between. Obviously, a lot of draft coverage over the next 3 weeks or so. So do not miss out. Hit that sub button, share the link below with a friend, and turn on those notifications. All right, the Bears did tweet out each of these signings. Let's start with Myles Boykin. Tinley Park's very own has agreed to a 1-year contract. And I remember when he was coming out of Notre Dame, I really liked him because he had a strong athletic profile. I thought he could give you some versatility as a big slot or an outside receiver. You look at his career numbers in 5 seasons of playing, obviously has not done much, right? And the vast majority of that production for Boykin is in his first 2 NFL seasons when he had 32 of his 38 catches and all 7 touchdowns and over 400 of those yards in those first 2 years. So the last 3 years, for a variety of reasons, he has just not done much. And as a former third-round pick, as you kind of look at his journey here and background, I have been a little surprised he hasn't been more productive in the NFL. Went to Providence Catholic, which some of you guys may be familiar with. We'll talk about his high school days coming up in a little bit as well. Got a couple fun angles there. Notre Dame, I mentioned that. Actually overlapped with Cole Kmet for 2 years in 2016 and 17. He was a Steelers third-round pick in 2019 for Pittsburgh. And again, his 2 most productive years were in 19 and 20. Was with Pittsburgh in 21 as well, but got phased out a little bit. I want to say he may have gotten hurt that year as well. Got cut, got picked up by their rivals, the Baltimore Ravens, was there for a couple of years. And then this past year, he bounced around the Giants and Seahawks practice squads. I mentioned it earlier, but I'll mention it again. This guy's athletic profile is off the charts. You know, when we show these RAS scores, he had a 9.93 out of 10. He's one of the best testing wide receivers in the history of the NFL Combine. He's 6'4", 220 pounds. He ran a 4.42 at that size, 43.5-inch vertical. I think his broad jump was 11.8. I mean, you're talking about one of the premier athletes to ever play in the NFL, but it just kind of goes to show that just because you're an athletic freak doesn't mean you're a good football player. Now, I'm not saying he can't become a better player than he's been, but typically guys like this who have been around a half decade, I don't think you're building anything around this guy, right? You have a 90-man roster in the offseason. I have mentioned recently that I'd like to get a backup X-type, a big body receiver, and I think he can give you some of that. I do think as a big slot, he intrigues me. And I'll say this, he's been with 2 defensive-minded franchises. The Ravens have shifted more offensively, but obviously Pittsburgh's been more defense. Maybe, just maybe, a guy like Ben Johnson can get something out of Boykin in that athletic profile. Now, I talked to Patrick Seatman, who grew up in the Chicago area and played Catholic high school football and basketball, and he was like, dude, this guy was a freak in high school, both in football and basketball. He pulled up his senior year stats at Providence Catholic and 19 touchdowns in 11 games. You see the big playability there. I'm sure he was just unbelievable back then. And then also real quick, Colin, before we engage with the audience, I do just want to add this as well. Patrick Seatman, our Vikings host, again, who grew up in the greater Chicago area. He is a Bulls fan and our Bulls Now host as well. Go check him out. He texted me when the signing came through and he said, dude, Myles Boykin, freak in high school, he dunked on me. So our very own, Chat Sports own, Patrick Seatman, dunked on, posterized by our friend and now fellow Bear, Myles Boykin. So fun little angle there. Always fun when local area kids end up on the Bears. We'll see if this turns into something again. Probably looking at an offseason, a camp body, if he can show something and compete for that final role. I'll say this, with that frame, he should be a capable blocker. You need a backup big body receiver. He checks those 2 boxes. If he can stay healthy, maybe he could be wide receiver 5 or wide receiver 6. Grade the Myles Boykin signing, A, B, C, D, or F. again, you're talking about 1 year, probably non-guaranteed money. So I don't think it can really be a bad grade. Not going to have huge expectations for either of these signings, but that's what I would just say when it comes to that. All right, we'll get to the other signing coming up here in just a moment, but I do want to thank our sponsor, PrizePicks, and tell you guys about our sponsor, PrizePicks, on today's show. It's the best daily fantasy sports app in North America with 10 million users and counting. You should be one of them. More than $10 billion in payouts up to this point, available in more than 30 states. Springtime is here, which means baseball is upon us, so you can baseball players into your lineups. You could do a baseball-only lineup. You could do a combo lineup with the baseball player, basketball, hockey. That's what's cool about PrizePicks. 2 or more players on 2 or more different teams qualify for a lineup, and we got a special deal for you guys at PrizePicks.com/CLNS. If you use our special code CLNS, you're going to get an additional $50 to play with when you sign up and just play for $5. Just a $5 lineup. You even got the season-long football stat projections available. Caleb Williams, I love the more on those passing yards because that's less than what he threw for last year, and he should be much more successful this year in this offense. So that's an easy one for me. And then James Cook, I think he reaches 1,000 or more rushing yards as well. 3x your entry money on that one, so $10 for 30, $100 for 300, etc. If you hit, you win. And again, win or lose your first lineup, you're going to get $50 for free if you play for just $5 if you sign up at PrizePicks.com/CLNS. Use the code CLNS. Appreciate PrizePicks today, and go check them out. Okay, the other signing, Shaun Wade, Wade's World. Got to love the social team here. He's on board with the 1-year contract as well. You guys should be familiar with him as well if you're college football fans. Huge recruit at Ohio State. At one point, his freshman or sophomore year was viewed as a potential first-round pick. And then I don't know what happened, but his last year at Ohio State, he just fell off a cliff. I mean, I remember there was real talk of this guy might go from first-round projection to undrafted. He ended up being a 5th-round pick back in, let me pull up his page here, 2021 by the Baltimore Ravens. And didn't even make their roster. He was on their practice squad. Gets picked up by the Patriots later that year, and was on their active roster for 3 seasons, had some value as a special teamer, played a little DB for a couple of years because they had some injuries and just weren't that good. But like I said, this guy at one point had major talent, and for whatever reason, I don't know if there was some undisclosed injury at Ohio State that never got revealed or something, but he wasn't the same. Now, he's found a niche as an okay special teamer, kind of depth DB. He was on the Chargers practice squad last year. So I'm less intrigued with this one than I am with Myles Boykin, not just because of the Chicago connection, but just because at least with Boykin, the athletic profile is there, and there's been some production in the NFL, 7 touchdowns in his first 2 seasons. With Shaun Wade, I think at best you're looking at like a CB4 or 5, and on this team, CB5 at best probably. And quite frankly, I think it's an uphill battle to make the team. And then a guy who could play on special teams. But again, depth. It's the offseason, 90-man roster. These signings don't hurt you. They're non-guaranteed deals. They don't impact your salary cap. So certainly don't have an issue with either. But as I ask you guys this question, I'm much more intrigued with Myles Boykin. What do you think is the better signing here? Type B for Boykin or type W for Wade? I'm typing my B for Myles Boykin. All right, that's going to do it for this edition of Chicago Bears Now. A little breaking news episode for you guys. Give us your thoughts in the comment section below. Don't forget to subscribe because we have plenty of content coming up this weekend as well.